Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bigger on the Inside Series 3, the new Doctor Who Watch Along podcast. I am here as always. My name is Tim Saxby. Hi, how you doing? And with me, as always, is the very handsome. I don't know where that was going. I was trying to think of something funny, but I just complimented him because I'm nice like that. Harry Murdoch. Hi, Harry. How the devil are you?
Hi, good. If you want a context, visual context, the reason Tim lost it is because I just threw him a very charming smile when he called him handsome, when he called me handsome, and that
It's not
just
very often I drop compliments.
he melted. He turned to butter at my winning smile.
Yeah, we're back, Series 3. We're recording this on the 12th of April, which for everybody, all our UK listeners, is the day that lockdown restrictions have started to ease. The pubs are open, the hairdressers are open, non-essential shops are open. Harry, did you do anything to treat yourself today? I can see you haven't had a haircut, unlike
I'm
myself.
getting a haircut tomorrow, so by the time that this video releases, I will have hair that is not long enough to make an emo fringe, like your current.
You look slightly like one of the Beatles, I feel. You could pull that off maybe. It's slightly too long, but you could be one of the Beatles.
I am looking forward to having this haircut. It just gets in my eyes so much. I had like an acting assessment today, and I had to get hair clips put in just to keep out of my eyes. Like, I'm so looking forward to a haircut. You don't even know.
Did you manage to do what me and my friend Josh did, which was sit outside a pub for a brief moment of sunshine, and then sit in the freezing cold for another 4 hours?
I did sit outside, but not in a pub because all the pubs near me were absolutely packed by the point that I was done at uni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One thing I want to kick the episode off with is that we got a really lovely DM on Instagram. I won't read the DM out, but I just want to say thank you to the amazing Logan for sending some support for the show. You guys really, I don't think you realize how excited me and Harry get when we do get messages from you guys saying you listen to the show, because sometimes we wonder if anybody is listening. So if you are listening, do give us a follow and send us some messages on Instagram. I think what we would really love is you guys tell us what you want to hear, because obviously we know what we like to record, what we like to do. But if you guys want to hear us talk to certain people or talk about certain things, then definitely leave us a message and we'll definitely do that. We've been away for 2 weeks since we've done a main show. Coming up later, you will be able to listen to our commentary or our thoughts on The Runaway Bride and the 2006 Christmas special. That's right. So stay tuned for that. But first, there is two bits of main news. One is a rumor. One is a series of interviews. The first one, let's start with the rumor, which is that Line of Duty star Kelly MacDonald is a rumored favourite to replace Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor, obviously, into the 14th Doctor. Now, there isn't much to say because I don't. Do you watch Line of Duty?
My family watches Line of Duty. We've been watching it whilst I've been at uni. I've heard very, very good things about the new series. I know the whole show is meant to be brilliant. I've not seen it. It's something I really should get onto because I know the whole thing's on iPlayer. So maybe when I'm not watching Doctor Who or Torchwood, I'll watch Line of Duty.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I see all the time, but the hype around it is too intense when it's on that I can't watch it while it's on because it's going to spoil it. It's like, because I watch Gogglebox, so I sort of feel like I see Line of Duty vicariously through those who would participate in Gogglebox.
You really get the sense that it's
sort of get excited.
Show on TV right now. You really get that sense.
Yeah. But yeah, Kelly MacDonald is a rumoured favourite to, become the 14th Doctor. Now, I think we talked about this briefly. I don't want to talk so much about her casting because we don't really know her that well. I had a quick Googs. She looks like she could be the Doctor. Don't have any standout problems or anything like that. One thing I did want to mention is that do you think there has been no confirmation or anything since early January, apart from one rumour at the start of January that Jodie was on her way out as Doctor Who. Since then, there's been nothing at all from the BBC. No other sort of confirmed rumours. Just casting, that sort of speculation sort of stuff. Do you think she's on her way out, or is this just an out-of-hand rumour?
I feel like these rumours are circulating because at this point in New Who, we're used to the idea that most doctors have 3 series and then they're out. And that kind of 3 full series feels like a satisfying run. And I feel like lots of people are getting that sense of, Jodie's been on the show for more than 3 years at this point, and this her third series is coming up. This feels like, anything we are going to see of her Doctor, we will have seen by the end, and that it would be a perfectly reasonable time to go. One thing that makes me question that is that, of course, the series that Jodie has been in have been notably a bit shorter, and especially the series coming up is going to be much shorter than what we're used to. So perhaps to make up for that, she might stay on for a 4th series, which kind of, on average, gives her the same kind of run that Capaldi and Smith and Tennant had.
I would like her to stay on for a 4th series because, like you said, even though she's been around the same amount of time as Smith and Tennant, I feel like we don't know this incarnation of Doctor that well. We haven't seen a lot of the different elements that we're seeing from other Doctors. Like Jodie Whittaker is an amazing actress. First saw her in Broadchurch, and she can play tortured, grieving sort of, mother really well. So I feel like they need to play into that because I do feel like she's funny. She's a really good comedic actress at parts, but they need to play to that strength that Chibnall really did well with Broadchurch, that, made a sort of a household name almost. So I always find it strange that they haven't really leaned too much into that. Obviously, they want to separate that, but then, it's what one of her strengths, so why not do that?
Yeah, there have been some moments, some really intriguing glimpses, which kind of make me really intrigued by a Doctor. Like, we get moments of vulnerability with the 13th Doctor, where perhaps she reflects on being alone or kind of being the last of her kind or whatever. Well, not the last of her kind because the Master, but Gallifrey destroyed all that. Or we get moments of real kind of fire and aggression from her and intensity. But those always feel quite fleeting compared to other Doctors. I hope that series 3, now we've seen glimpses of those, really starts to lean into those, and we really just get to see her Doctor full force, full throttle. I hope that's the trajectory going in, because that's kind of what we've been getting signs of. I just want to see her just going all out. Whether or not that's what Chibnall has planned for this incarnation of a Doctor, I can't say, but I feel like that, for people who haven't been won over by her yet, could be the thing that really clinches it and gets people saying, yes, this is the Doctor.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel a 4th series would work because I feel that this will be what's her name? I completely forgot who plays Yaz. Mandip Gill. I feel like this will be Mandip Gill's last series. I feel after 3 seasons that's too long for a companion to stay. Could be proved wrong. But then I feel having the Doctor and a companion leave again feels too much like a complete reboot, like between Tennant and Smith and Capaldi and Whittaker. I feel like you need some sort of continuation. And I don't think that will be Dan, John Barrowman's character. John Bishop. Oh, God, that's really going to get. I do that every time now. I don't think that's going to be John Bishop's character. So I feel like the two of them, John Bishop, and Mandip Gill will leave at the end of series. Well, Jodie's 4th series, and then 3rd series even, and in their 4th season they will introduce a new companion that will then continue into the 14th Doctor.
Firstly, I agree with that. That would make a lot of sense, just with what we've experienced before. Although, obviously, maybe Chibnall wants to do something we've never seen before. Although, secondly, sorry, could you say the name of the actor playing Dan again? I didn't quite catch it.
John Bishop.
That's what I was looking for. For.
I was going to go back, but I flustered and annoyed myself too much that I didn't want to say it. Other news. One last bit of news before we go on to something a little different is that Doctor Who magazine, despite continued rumours of its decline in sales, definitely picked up in the last with this month's issue with its exclusive interview with Christopher Eccleston, his first interview with any sort of Doctor Who associated press in 16 years. Have you been able to sort of read glimpses of what's been said?
I've not read the magazine article, but I've caught a couple of glimpses from a couple of different sources, official Doctor Who sources, and then other kind of journalists.
Yeah, I did pick up the magazine. First thing I've got to say is it took me 3 days to find a place that sold it. I went to like 3 different Asda's and Morrison's and Sainsbury's and Nisa. I was all over the place. In the end, I found it in Waitrose of all places. But yeah,
it's a
very
classy magazine,
interview.
Tim. It's a classy magazine.
It's only for the
it's high-end stuff.
But the one thing that I think stood out for everybody was the honesty that Eccleston showed in returning to the role, and really the reason why he's doing it, which is a reason I think we speculated a while ago, and I think it's been quite clear, is that it's when he says it's the right time, he doesn't mean it's the right time to revisit the Ninth Doctor. He means it's the right time for it to be the only option to revisit the Ninth Doctor, in the sense that we have COVID, acting work's dry, you can do voiceover work, it's paid work, as I believe what Eccleston said. How does that make you feel as a Who fan, as a Whovian, as a dirty?
See, the thing is, I can't do this just in the context of a Whovian. I have to view this personally. I have to view this in the context of an actor, because I am currently trained to be an actor. I'm soon going to be going into this industry, and it's a tough industry. Right now, it's an especially tough industry, and you need to take the work that you can get. And him saying, this is paid work, I'm going to do it, that's a perfectly valid reason,
Yeah. Working class hero.
Yeah, and he has, we've caught the glimpses from the trailer, and it's obvious that him saying that is not an indication that he's dismissing the role or he doesn't deem the role worthy of his attention. He's clearly put the work in expected of him as an actor, and he's delivering a really strong performance from what we've heard so far. And so to me, it doesn't really matter what his attitude is towards the work, whether it's something he's passionate about or whether it's just work, because either way, he's a professional actor and he's treating this gig as a professional gig, as a professional, putting in the work that we'd expect. And we're getting a great performance out of it. So to me, his reasons are perfectly valid, and what we're getting is great. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I think the only thing that sours it is, as a speculator, you go, "Oh, he's doing Big Finish. This could mean he's going to do the 60th," and then little quotes like that, and other things he said make you go, we're never going to get that."
Yeah, I mean, I know that there are some people who've been getting very hopeful that this means that he's more likely to do the 60th. And it is, probably closer to the realms of possibility right now. But I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm imagining that the 60th will have either Matt or David. I can't imagine both of them returning.
Well, wait. Oh, no. I think both of them will be there. Matt Smith and David Tennant will both return. I think they've both said they would like to return. Well, we all know David Tennant's going to return.
I can't. But, I think the thing for me is that the 50th was, 50th to me is a bigger milestone than 60th. And if the 60th had Matt and David and the current Doctor, then it would essentially be outdoing the 50th. And that to me doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I guess so. But then what's the point of doing a celebration if you're not going to try and do bigger and better than the celebration that you did the previous year?
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true.
3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, and then they did the 2 Doctors, and then we had the 50th, and now we've got the 60th. So I feel like you keep hyping it up. Otherwise, we get another.
What can they call at this point? Like, if it is, I imagine Capaldi will come back because Capaldi loves Doctor Who. So if it was like, if Tennant, Smith, and Capaldi and the current Doctor, would they call it the 4 Doctors? Is that what they do?
I don't know. I quite like those names. They're quite fun, but then I think there's better titles.
Yeah.
Um, anything else? Anything else, Harry, that we haven't discussed that you've heard? Anything you want to talk about?
Not that I can think
Nope.
of. No, it's
Okay, well,
a bit quiet on the Doctor Who front.
It is. I was surprised. I'm going to steal a segment from a fellow YouTuber and Doctor Who friend, and the Confused Adipose, aka Joe. He did a video recently on what he would do if he was Doctor Who showrunner, and he basically did a 5-year plan of who he would cast and what he would have them do. So last night, I quickly copied his idea and came up with my own, not 5-year plan, but just one series, and what I would do with the show and how I would change it. Are you interested, Harry?
That does sound interesting. And
okay, so this isn't necessarily a oh, sorry, you had something to say.
No, you continue.
Okay, my idea is I do it this week, and maybe if you get time, you can do yours next week as well.
Okay.
But here we go. So I know we've just talked. This isn't a continuation as in series 15 or 14. This is way in the future, maybe 10 years in the future, something daft like that, where we don't currently have to worry about current timeline events. There is only 6 episodes a season. I took that from Line of Duty because I feel like sometimes a 13 episode can sort of drag the story out, but a more condensed story definitely works well. But I'm still keeping the 45-minute length. Do you want to know who I've cast in various roles? Actually, no, I'll save that till last. I'll tell you who I've cast as a Doctor. Because of the tone, I want it to be slightly darker in how he portrayed a detective in the ITV dramas. Rowan Atkinson as the Doctor is what I've gone for, a fan favourite of mine. So episode 1, we meet the Doctor and he's alone in the TARDIS just drifting around the universe. We can hear his inner monologue explaining the state he's in. He's in his dark years, abandoned his life of travelling with friends. The Master is dead. The Daleks have been defeated. It's all over. The Doctor finds that the TARDIS has been hijacked and is being transported to a space-based sort of space station place. When he arrives, the TARDIS doors open to find a new version of Unit Intergalactic, which has a number of known aliens working alongside Gwen Cooper from Torchwood. So this is all set on like a future space station. I thought it'd be quite cool that the Doctor opens the doors. There's Gwen in the background as a Savine wearing a space helmet. Unit is now run by Captain Jack Harkness, but nobody has seen Jack in many years. In his place, it's just a wise old woman who's been on the space station. Because like the space station is like fixed on a planet. It's not like a satellite. She's been living on this planet for years, so she's sort of like the elder. She's like the figurehead, almost like the queen of the planet in that sort of regard. She's excited to meet the Doctor because she was never sure if the Doctor was a myth or or a real person, a myth, legend, or whatever. When the Doctor meet and they talk about Unit and what's been happening and why they had to kidnap the Doctor, they discover that an unknown being has been freezing time on various planets to steal ancient goods and kill the higher ups of the planets. So that's episode 1. That's your setup. Episode 2, the Doctor and Gwen arrive on one of these planets and walk around and they sort of explore what's going on. And it's almost like children's playgrounds where the children are frozen as statues. It's not set on Earth. So, but I always think of that scene from Day of the Doctor where there's the Gallifreyan kids with the ropes doing, what's that like British thing that they do on playfields? What's that called?
Do
you know what I mean?
Describe it to me.
Like ring a roses, and they all run around a maple tree thing.
A maypole. A maypole?
Yeah, maypole. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're all like frozen in time and stuff. So whilst there, they meet a woman who managed to escape the frozen time. She sees the TARDIS and can't believe that she's seen the Doctor. She talks about how he once was the savior of worlds, but now nobody knows what happened to him. He's almost like a Robin Hood figure. No one really knows because it's been so long if he was real or not. A majority of this episode is flashback to what life was like for this woman who is called Crystal. She had a family, she had kids, she had a partner, and how all that was just taken from her when everything was frozen. They tried to work to save the people of the... I don't have names or anything like that, but this frozen planet, they're trying to work to save and find out what's going on. And they realize that the key component is only available on another planet. So the Doctor, Gwen, and Crystal step aboard the TARDIS and head off on their next adventure. End of episode 2. See what? It's more... It's more... You're yawning.
It's late. It's 9:30.
but they're more episodic. It's not so much. It's more. Sorry, not episodic.
There's a
Serial. It's more of a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Episode 3: The TARDIS lands on a new planet. The Doctor, Gwen, and Crystal are greeted by a rundown small group of Jadoon, who have been guarding the planet for a forgotten amount of time. There's only maybe 6 or 7 Jadoon left. If anything happens, return to the TARDIS. The Doctor hands them both a key to the ship. The Doctor explains to Jadoon why they have arrived on the planet and what they need. The Jadoon tell of a similar story that they've experienced, where this being came and killed half of the Jadoon population by freezing time and stealing ancient artifacts and so on. The Doctor tells Gwen and Crystal that the key item they need has been guarded by many years by a series of puzzles and endurance tests. The episode follows the Doctor, Gwen, and Crystal as they solve the puzzles and are pushed to the edge, forcing the Doctor to reveal secrets about his life, such as the Time Wall, the War Doctor, and a few hints to things that we hadn't seen before. When they finish, they are greeted by a large grand door. It opens to a big hall. In the center of the hall sits the item that they are in search of. Behind it is a throne which sits an aged Captain Jack Harkness, almost like an old man Logan, old man Harkness situation. He gives his classic line, "You missed me, right?" And that's the end of episode 3. Episode 4, I'm going to speed this up a bit because I'm worried I'm losing people. The episode picks up where the last episode left off with the group. Jack stands and talks with his old friend. He confronts the Doctor, forcing him to reveal why he took a darker path and why he no longer helps and just observes and no longer gets involved. He reveals that he has been watching Unit Intergalactic and is proud of Gwen for running the team on her own without him. She breaks down and explains to Jack that she thought he was dead and what it was like being on her own, stranded on an alien planet. Jack hands the Doctor the key item he needs. Jack has aged faster than Gwen because this is actually a future version of Jack. You know, we always seem to meet Jack, and it's just the last time we saw him a few years later. We never see Jack way off in the future. I thought that'd be cool. The Doctor is no longer the man that he once was, and Jack reaches out in his. Jack's sort of just trying to work out what's happened. They sort of have a bit of a spat and so on. I've just lost my place. Here we go. As the team return to the TARDIS, Jack walks with them. The Doctor, Gwen, and Jack say their goodbyes and turn to the TARDIS. As they do, Crystal is standing before them with some sort of space gun. She speaks that the Doctor could have saved her family if he had responded to the distress signals that planet had sent all those years ago when they were frozen. Crystal also reveals that she had met the Doctor before when she was a darker character and didn't have her own family. After her interaction with the Doctor, she set her life on a more positive track, but now she's changing back. Crystal is changing back into the Rani. It was the Rani all along. Any reaction from that, Harry? Or you just...
I'm sorry, I did do a gasp, but it was clearly inaudible to the camera.
Quick, do another gasp. Thank you very much. Episode 5. Remember, there's only 6, so I'm going to finish soon. The Doctor, Jack, and Gwen are trapped in cells on board the TARDIS that the Rani has now taken over. The Doctor is powerless due to the TARDIS no longer responding to his voice and also not having the sonic screwdriver. Jack reveals that he still is in possession of the Vortex Manipulator, but it's not as reliable as it once was. Gwen takes the manipulator and travels back in time and finds herself on a relatively new space station. She realizes where it is. She's at Unit Intergalactic many, many decades before we first met her there in episode 1. We follow the life of Gwen in intergalactic battles, aging slowly and slowly into the old woman that we met in the first episode. We are then reintroduced to the Doctor when he first arrived on the base. When he goes off with younger Gwen, old Gwen uses her key to enter the TARDIS that she was given in episode 2 and take it for a spin. In episode 6, back on the TARDIS, the Doctor and Jack are reminiscing about old times with Rose, Martha, and Yaz, and a few other adventures in between. In the main console room, Rani is indulging herself in finally having her hands on the most powerful ship in the universe. We see an interaction between the Doctor and Jack communicating with Gwen in her own version of the TARDIS because she stole the TARDIS from the past, which is the same TARDIS but from 2 different time zones. Gwen locks onto the TARDIS's coordinates and merges the 2 ships into one. By doing this, the Doctor and Jack are freed, and they are able to take back control of the TARDIS. The Rani is trapped in time and left to stand alone in space for life. The Doctor takes Jack and Gwen back to Unit Intergalactic, where Jack is welcomed back. Whilst avoiding a past version of themselves, the Doctor, Gwen, and Crystal, the past versions of the Doctor, Gwen, and Crystal from episode 1, we see them step aboard now the only version of the TARDIS, leaving the Doctor stuck on the Intergalactic Space Station. He joins Unit Intergalactic for the following season in an adventure sets completely in space, fighting aliens in spaceships and sort of X-Wing type things. So there you go.
Okay. It's quite a cinematic... to me, it strikes me as cinematic, maybe just because kind of an epic overarching story. Yeah, set in space. So a little Star Warsy almost. But
yeah,
obviously there's enough elements in there to kind of separate it from Star Wars. But to me, that kind of strikes me as something that kind of the epic proportions that one could consider worthy of cinema almost.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's more exploratory of time. I feel like Stephen Moffat could overuse that and overcomplicate it, while Russell T Davies just used it as a way to tell a story to get to a different location. But I think to use it effectively and just sort of use it basically, but use it for an exciting plot, if I do say so myself, would be more effective.
Yeah. I'll be honest, it's not what I would do. I guess that's my job to put together.
Yeah, you should do that for next week.
Yeah, I might do. Yeah. I'll find time. This is a busy week. I'm not going to lie. This is a busy week for me.
The listeners, however, they have all the time in the world, and they now have time to listen to us talk about The Runaway Bride. Harry, why don't you come up with a fun segue into The Runaway Bride if you still want to carry on this segment, this ongoing joke?
Yeah, so Tim.
Harry.
Level with me.
Saint Murdoch.
You ever...
Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah, you ever been to a wedding?
Yes.
Yeah? Was it nice?
Yeah. It was alright, pretty boring. I was quite young.
Yeah. Is it so boring that kind of you were tempted to almost...
I wanted to leave.
Yeah, to leave, to run away, you know?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I wanted to run away, yeah.
You wanted to run away from that groom and that bride.
Yeah,
bride, run away.
Yeah, it was like bride, run away, yeah.
Yeah, bride, run away, bride, run away. Bride, runaway, bride. Speaking of runaway bride...
Diddle-a-ding, digging-a-ding, ding-a-ding, 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 ding-a-ding. Thanks for listening to this, guys. I know there wasn't much news this week, but hopefully we will do next week. We'll have better news. Oh, Jesus Christ. Enjoy the rest of the episode, guys. See you later soon. Bye!
Shut up! Shut up! Shut it down, pop up!
This is a command from the Daleks. All listeners are demanded to subscribe to our Patreon. Subscribe or you will be exterminated. Seek, locate, subscribe.
What's the point in having you all?
That was good news or bad news, or maybe there was no news, because sometimes there is no news.
At this point, I'm assuming that there was just radio silence on news, and we talked about, like, I don't know, Stephen Moffat's marital problems or something.
One of us might not even have been there. Could have been Harrison again, talking to himself.
It could have been Harrison. Again. In which case, great job, Harrison. What he had to say about Stephen Moffat's marital problems was really interesting.
He's a great guy.
I assume Stephen Moffat doesn't have marital problems. I'm sure he's in a very... I mean, isn't his wife like a TV producer?
Yeah, I think she produces a lot of the stuff he works on, apart from Doctor Who. I don't think she worked on that.
Yeah. They must get along pretty well if they can work together and
Which
live
one do you think is providing work for the other? Is he providing work for her, or is she going, I've got you this new writing gig? Or is he going, I've wrote this thing, you're going to produce it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I assume that the producer, like, when it comes to like the pecking order, is higher up. So it'd be a thing where it's like, hey, can you get people to give me money to make this? And she'd be like, sure, I'll talk to a TV studio.
Yeah. So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. Anyway, that was random. The Runaway Bride. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's April or
Merry
May.
Christmas!
This will come out in about April or May. Did you think this was coming out at Christmas? What did you think there for a second?
I was going to say Merry Christmas regardless, because it's a Christmas episode with David Tennant, and you can't get much better than a David Tennant-led Doctor Who Christmas special. And I think this is the best of those ones, personally.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that. Okay, so my first question is, it's currently the 4th of March. How did you feel about hearing Christmas songs in the middle of March, at the start of March?
I mean, we've kind of been in a limbo lockdown-wise ever since Christmas. So really, like, has Christmas really ended?
Christmas
I've not been able to...
Bit like friendship, that never ends as well. Spice up your life.
Except for when it does.
Yeah. The opening scene of this is taken straight from Rose, isn't it? It's the same music. We're in space. The camera zooms down, but it doesn't go. It goes into London, but not to the Powell estate to see Rose Tyler eating chips with Mickey. It goes to a church where we see Donna and the one and only time appearance of her father, who's I don't know the character or the actor's name, but
I didn't see them in the credits because they don't. Did her father speak in this episode?
He has the odd line, but when Donna returned for series 4, the actor had passed away, so that's why Wilf takes over. But actually, no, my understanding is that we'll talk about that when we get to series 4. But I can't remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
Apologies. But yeah, how did you feel about that? That sort of familiarity. Then all of a sudden we're in somewhere. I was going to say we're in somewhere we've never been to Doctor Who before, in a church. But as soon as I thought that, the only thing that was running through my head was
Get to the
church! Yeah. So how did you feel about that? I thought that was a fun way of opening the series, opening the special even.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it almost implies that. Well, the first thing it does is that by having the first scene start on Donna rather than the Doctor, it kind of reverts back to having it that the companion is kind of the protagonist who we view the whole thing through the lens of, rather than viewing it through the Doctor. And secondly, it almost suggests, I mean, obviously this wasn't the plan when this episode came out, but it seems to suggest by having such a similar opening to Rose that Donna is going to be a new companion, or at least kind of gears us up for that expectation.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the time of this was just the only time appearance Catherine was going to do in Doctor Who. I think they were quite surprised that she was available to do it. I think they'd asked her and she wasn't sure, because this was at the time when Catherine Tate was doing stuff like the Catherine Tate Show, Gulliver's Travels. She was was she in The Office at this point?
Gulliver's Travels wasn't until like way later.
No, you're right.
Travels was like 2011, 2012, right?
Yeah, and she wasn't in The Office till around then either. So yeah, I know it was before that.
So but like the Catherine Tate Show is a big deal. Like even as a kid, who wasn't allowed to watch the Catherine Tate Show, I was aware of like, am I bothered and all that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like Catherine Tate was like a pretty well-known name in the UK, so she was like kind of a big celebrity guest for Christmas, wasn't she?
And this episode really, compared to what we get in Series 4 with Donna, this episode really plays up to the Catherine Tate aspect of the character. There is a lot of, not exactly am I bothered lines, but a lot of what? A lot of just really sassy sort of teenageness. This sort of, what I suppose now sort of Karen-esque qualities, like you would now call it. Which is, I found quite jarring at first, because I was like, oh, that's not Donna. But then again, this isn't the Donna that we're going to get to know, because she was just written for this one-time appearance.
Yeah, and she is a lot of fun in this appearance. I mean,
she's great.
She's fun. I mean, I'm gonna I don't know if it's a spoiler to say that Donna is probably my favorite companion that Tennant has. At least full-time companion.
Yeah.
She just brings so much fun and energy, and her rapport with the Doctor is it's such a contrast to Rose, because like she challenges and is skeptical about everything he does, but that really works. Like him do it. I really like this episode. I don't want to get carried away yet. So
did you notice that the way she's sort of taken out of the church and transported into TARDIS, that effect reminded me a lot of the nanogenes we got in the Empty Child, the Dr. Dances episode. The sort of like gold dust effect that surrounds Donna as she's whisked away. And I sort of watched it and I was like, oh, I wonder why they didn't try and maybe incorporate that, or maybe just make it look a little bit different, because it is exactly the. It wouldn't surprise me if it's the same visual effect that they've put in and just tweaked it slightly.
perhaps. I mean, that would save on resources, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This is the first time watching a David Tennant episode where I felt like he was fully embraced in the role. Like, I think maybe because he's on his own, but it was the first time where I didn't feel like I was still getting used to him. Throughout, it's kind of odd to say because he's the first Doctor I saw, so I've had like 14 years of David Tennant as a Doctor. But when we've rewatched that first series, I'm watching it through a different eye. But when it came to this episode, it did feel like he was fully embraced in that role. And I think maybe that's because when I've watched Confidential and stuff afterwards, David said how that first series, he still felt like the new boy. And Billy was sort of like she was like the senior of the crew. But now obviously she's gone, so he's taken that position. But I don't know, how did you feel about that?
I felt pretty much the exact same way. I mean, I was feeling it much more holistically in that this episode, in so many ways, to me, it really felt like Doctor Who had come into its own. That after those first 2 years of having like a successful first series, a successful regeneration, it's now reached a point where everyone involved, David Tennant, Russell, even Murray Gold's score felt like they were like, yes, we've got this right. We're just going to take it by the reins and just go. Like, even like the direction, there was so much energy to the whole thing. Such a paciness. Like you said, David Tennant felt like he'd just really come into his own. Like him here, like he was indisputably the Doctor. This was the 10th Doctor that I remember growing up with, fully formed. And he was just owning it. Like Murray Gold's score, like had like that energy and pace and just like confidence, and Russell's writing was like snappy and energetic and just not holding anything back and just like suitably goofy and like serious when it needed to be and emotional. I thought this was just like peak Doctor Who.
The score on
peak
this
Russell T Davies.
As I wrote a note, the score on this is so much more noticeable in a good way than it has been throughout the rest of the series. It's there constantly, and it is more impactful than what's going on. I feel like maybe for series 2, we hear a lot of the same scores. You know, you hear obviously the Doctor's theme, the Doctor Who theme, the Doctor's theme, Rose's theme. There's a lot of motifs going through the different scores, but because this is a brand new story, self-contained story, it's got brand new contained music, and it is really, I think there's a bigger orchestra as well for it. When it's being composed, because it just sounds more grand, which is great for a Christmas episode, especially.
Yeah, the two moments I really noticed the score were, first of all, the car chase on the motorway.
Yeah, that's great.
Like the score was like really full throttle there, if you pardon the pun. And secondly, at the very end, with the Doctor and Donna talking in the snow, and you hear the 10th Doctor's theme come in. And like that recurring motif, like it added so much kind of weight to that scene and the things Donna was saying about him.
I love that scene where the Doctor arrives in the TARDIS to rescue Donna on the motorway. It's great. I really like, and I feel like if they were to do it now, it would be so different, because I love the fact that he's got string all over the place and he's pulling string to make stuff work and he's biting things with his teeth. Whereas now I would feel that the Doctor would stand at the door, and if she did need to speed up, she'd pull out a sonic and zap something and the TARDIS would speed up. But this whole, like, building it himself and this isn't what it's designed to do element, I think works really well. But I feel like they should maybe incorporate more of that into Doctor Who, whereas the TARDIS is this great machine that can do so much, but it is also, getting on a bit. So it's not going to be...
And the Doctor, the Doctor, like, it is a machine that's designed to go through, travel through space and time, but in a very specific way. It's designed to kind of warp from one place to the other. Like the flying function doesn't really come into effect that much. So the Doctor's really kind of pushing the TARDIS to its limits by having it in this high speed scenario. And there's a real appeal to that.
I remember really enjoying that scene when I was a kid. But this episode is really funny as well. And I don't think that's just because it's got Catherine Tate in it. There are just some really good David moments in it where it's really funny. Like the scene where he's just waiting at an ATM. It's so bizarre to see the Doctor just waiting at an ATM to withdraw money. The way he's just like, because it's exactly how I am when someone's taking forever in front of you, just sat behind them waiting. It's great.
It is fantastic. Fantastic.
And also him constantly being miffed that people keep saying he's a Martian.
Yeah,
like that's really offended.
The way he says just under his breath, I'm not from Mars.
Yeah, like he's probably had it all his life. Yeah. Despite the fact that Rose isn't in this episode, there is still a lot of she still has a big impact in this episode. She's mentioned right at the start of the episode where Donna picks up her top, and then throughout the episode as well, she's sort of referenced to. How did you feel about that? I thought it was a fun way to include it, because I imagine that if you were just binge watching this, you would maybe it wouldn't have the same effect. But because we've taken maybe a couple of weeks or so out from recording these since the last one we did, it's nice to sort of have that sort of connection, a small link between the two.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And of course, for the Doctor himself, like this has happened like straight after the end of Doomsday, Bad Wolf Bay. And so it's very natural. It makes sense that he's still dealing with that.
Yeah. It's a matter of it's not even days, it's hours.
Seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds. Literally, it was a couple of seconds they got to have a moment to have a sexy tear go down his face, and then boom, Donna was there.
Yeah.
In the TARDIS.
I like the scene where he's at the party and he sees the two people dancing, and he looks across and you can sort of remember a time when he was with Rose and they weren't actually dancing, but it's got the same movements to it. And I think that's a really good inclusion. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would have liked them to have done more of that. That would have been fun to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole, post-breakup, everything reminds me of her, man.
Yeah. I see your face in soup. The way the trees say your name when the wind blows through them. I didn't think I would...
That actually brings me on to something, because I know one thing that some people aren't fond of about Tennant's era, and especially going into series 3, is the way that it takes him a very long time to get over Rose. Yeah. And that kind of course, starts to be introduced here. I actually think in this episode is well handled, because yes, he does have some of those kind of angsty moments where he's remembering Rose, but they only kind of last a minute or less, and then he kind of diverts it and distracts himself with what's going on with Donna or the alien threat.
Yeah. No, I do like that inclusion. I would have maybe liked through all of series 3 to maybe have instances where he thinks he's seen Rose, but it's just blonde women. Have you seen the In-Betweeners movie where Simon and Carly have broken up and they're on holiday, and every blonde woman who walks past he thinks is his ex-girlfriend? I would have just loved that. Like now and again, he just thinks he's seen Rose. He's like, Rose? And it's just like some woman from the 18th century just vomiting. It's like, well, that's all right.
It doesn't matter, David, to the 10th Doctor. Sorry, I shouldn't say David Tennant. I was going to say, for him, he'll get off with any blonde girl, but...
yeah, Madame de Pompadour, Billy Piper, Rose Tyler,
Kylie Minogue.
Yeah. I didn't think I would be saying this going into series 3, but did you spot the Torchwood reference?
It wasn't really a reference. The corporation Donna's fiance worked for was bought up by Torchwood.
Yeah. And I was surprised that they were.
That's how the reference is a key plot point.
Okay, I wrote the note when it appeared on the phone. I was like, "Oh, cool," and then it went on. But I was quite surprised that Torchwood still had quite a big impact in the story, considering that I imagine a lot of people will have. This was my first Christmas special that I ever saw being broadcast. I had caught up on the series by this point, but for a lot of people, maybe who hadn't seen series 2, gone, "Oh, what's a Christmas special?" But then for the Christmas special also to be quite despite it being a standalone episode, it is very involved in its own story. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I guess kind of it's able to do that because at this point, Doctor Who had a pretty big, wealthy viewership, so it could kind of get away with continuing the story and tying into kind of an overarching plot because it kind of had confidence that most of the people watching will have seen those episodes, if not when they originally aired, at least through reruns.
Yeah, on BBC Three, which will.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, go on. I was going to say we'll talk about BBC Three, but by the time this comes out, we will have already spoken about BBC Three. Do you know about BBC Three?
About it coming back?
Yeah, but we already know about this because this will come out after we've already spoken about it. I'm going to speak about it in the news when we do Army of Ghosts.
Next week.
Yeah.
Cool. Very
Which
cool.
is already out if you're listening to this.
Yeah, it was a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, go check it out, loser. Yeah.
Don't call listeners losers.
I've called them worse, I'm sure I have. Which point do I want to go for next? I'm going to save that one to last. My next question for you, Harry, is: have you ever been on a Segway?
I don't think I have. I remember one time where I was holidaying in Spain and they offered like Segway tours. We were like, no, we prefer walking tours because we don't want to be falling on our bums every other minute.
They're fun. I went on one. I did like an off-road experience one. They were great. They're not that tricky.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, you should try one. Well, because they were on Segways in this episode, so I thought I'd mention it. I wasn't just asking.
Also, speaking of Spain, I don't remember if Spain it was, but I just found it kind of a funny kind of side thing that Donna missed the whole Battle of Canary Wharf and the Cybermen invasion because she was scuba diving. Was it in Lanzarote or something?
She was in Spain, wasn't she? Well, I can't.
Was it in Spain? Yeah.
Yeah. I like that as a reoccurring theme for Donna, that she misses absolutely everything.
I find it because you think of a character like Elton in Love and Monsters, and you see all like the compilation, the montage of all the alien invasions from his point of view. I kind of wish we saw something like that for Donna, but just how she missed all of them.
Yeah, she's just like bending down to tie his shoe, and an Auton walks past.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a scene I really like in this is when the Christmas tree baubles start to explode, and it's exploding to sort of rock Christmas music. It's like a Christmas jingle, but a Murray Gold version, and everybody's jumping. That guy face plants a cake, and there's explosions, and it's also Christmas music. I thought it was great.
It's fantastic. I've never fully understood like what the whole deal is with the Robo Santas and the killer Christmas decorations.
No, I didn't either.
I don't, because like they were there in the Sister Acts episode, and they're here now with like the spy lady. I don't know who exactly they work for, or if they're like, I don't know, Robo Santas for hire. But I love them. I love what they do.
Yeah, talking to a big spider there, Arachnos. That's a really cool looking monster, and to know that it's not all CGI, I believe. I think a lot of that is practical.
Yeah, it looks so cool, and especially I think because you wouldn't get something like that if they did that now, it would be all CG because they have the budget for that. I mean, was it Arachnids in
the UK?
What's it called? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Why not Arachnids in Sheffield? Because it was just in Sheffield.
I remember. It's been a while since I've watched. I don't think I've gone back and watched any Doctor Who since Capaldi. I've watched Capaldi and Whittaker, all those episodes, at least once.
Yeah, I feel like because I watched all of New Who to catch up before Whittaker, but I've not rewatched any of her run yet.
Yeah, that's not out of choice. That's not because I don't want to watch it, but it's because I'm not
it's
rewatching
too recent
anything
for me to watch. Yeah, like I'm not going to rewatch any of Capaldi or Smith until I have to do it for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. This episode, actually, I think this might be one of the... I think I might have only seen this episode about 3 times. Probably when it first came out. Actually, no, that's a lie. When it first came out, probably a few times as a kid. And then maybe in the last 10 years, only once. So it's quite nice to watch an episode that I really don't remember that well.
Is it not your go-to Doctor Who Christmas episode then? Because you sounded surprised when I said this might be my favourite Doctor Who Christmas episode.
No, I think out the two we've had, this has been my favourite. I don't know them all that well to say, but out of the two, I prefer this to the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah, definitely.
That said, I do think it's too long. I think it would have been better suited for a 45-minute runtime than an hour. I feel like once the Rachnos comes in, not much really happens excitement-wise. Obviously, there's a big water thing in the explosions, but there's a lot of explanation, a lot of dialogue just in that one room where not a lot's really going on.
That's interesting because for me, this episode is just so fast-paced and so much happens. Yeah. I can't see how they could have possibly fit it into 45 minutes. I feel like this completely justified its hour-long runtime.
Well, we've had another fight. Did you pick up on the... I'm trying to... whatever. Did you pick up on the Saxon reference?
Was there a Saxon reference in this episode?
Yes, when the tank shoots at the giant star in the sky, a voiceover comes on and says, Mr. Saxon has given the approval, or Mr. Saxon says fire.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting way of knowing who Harold Saxon is, to know that he actively fought against alien invasions during his time in office.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Do you know what else I find interesting, Harry?
What do you find interesting, Tim? How many times do you have said interesting?
No, I find quizzes interesting. It's the quiz.
You, not me. I hate being patient. Patience is for wimps.
Oh, yeah! Let's go, baby!
3 questions. What is the name of the company that Donna is working for?
Torchwood.
It's 2 letters and then a name.
H.
Would you like me to give you the 2? Would you like me to give you the 2 letters? Would that help?
It's not going to help.
It's
but go on.
HC something.
HC. I know Wilkins.
HC Clements.
I wasn't gonna get that.
Who does Donna think is to blame for her appearance in the TARDIS? She says it's somebody's fault. She says this has got someone's name written all over it.
Was it Keris?
Oh, it's Neris.
Ah!
No point. Okay, this I would be surprised if you get this one. Donna's mum says that Donna got kicked out of school on her very first day of school. What was the reason she got kicked out of school for?
Oh. Did she set something on fire?
She bit someone.
Ah.
That's not very good.
That was a bad show.
Really
bad show from me. Bad show. Jolly bad show.
Bringing in a new segment. I'm not going to do this every episode, but I'm going to wing the name right now. It's going to be called Tim's Trivia Time.
Ooh, but how's that any different from the quiz?
Because I've just got some bits of trivia here about the episode that you might not have
known.
Like,
did you know stuff?
Yeah. Oh. Did you know that when the doctors and Donna are at the ATM, they're actually standing outside the department store that got blown up in the first episode that Rose used to work at?
No, I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
The recording of this episode started 2 days after Series 2 finished.
I didn't know that either.
Okay.
That's new to me.
When they were filming the scene on top of the building, there was lots of paparazzi, right? And they were trying to get pictures of Catherine Tate, but they didn't know it was Catherine Tate. And when Catherine Tate had to leave the building, one of the production assistants put a coat over their own head and walked out the building to get the paparazzi to take photos of them instead of Catherine Tate.
That's an interesting bit of trivia, Tim. I was not aware of that before you telling me just now.
In a deleted scene, the Doctor grabs Rose's top from Donna and throws it out of the TARDIS. Did you know that?
That's a good trivia. No, I didn't know that
I
one.
don't like this. There's also a deleted scene where the Doctor is being driven around in a smart car.
Wow, that's a good trivia,
Tim. Didn't like that at all.
Good job.
Oh, you will like this bit. This is actually quite interesting, this bit. Do you remember in Love and Monsters when Elton is trying to find Rose Tyler? Sorry, he's trying to find Jackie. Oh, no, he's trying to find Rose. And he goes up to people in the street, and the first person he goes up to goes, "Oh, yeah, that's Rose Tyler, Jackie Tyler's daughter. She's in the laundrette over there." And it's that old woman. She's quite small and plump. Do you remember who I'm talking about? Yeah? Well, she originally had a cameo in this episode where the Doctor got on a bus and he sat next to her. But it got cut out.
Oh.
And also, this episode sparked a complaint whilst it was filming from a woman who complained that the tank woke her up.
I mean, that's a fair complaint, you know. If I got woken up by a tank, I'd be thrilled about it. I'd probably be more excited that Doctor Who is filming outside my house, but...
I also put a thing on our Instagram to see what you guys thought. So go over to Bigger on the Pod, because every week I will be asking your guys' opinion on Doctor Who episodes. So the most recent one I asked you about, of course, is this episode, The Runaway Bride. I'm just stalling because I can't find it. Where is it? Series 3, skip. So I asked you for your thoughts on The Runaway Bride. Vita DeForce Cade said it's a fantastic episode. And just another one, which one should I pick? Alex said, Donna is a great character, probably my favourite companion. So yeah, a lot of love for this episode, which is good.
It's a good episode. What can I say?
I always find the Christmas ones
I would be surprised
to talk
if
about, because they don't really, especially at the moment, they will down later on the line. They don't have much of a connection to the series arc, so they're quite hard to talk about, I find.
I don't mind that. My favourite episodes of Doctor Who generally are the more kind of epic, standalone ones, because I feel like the overarching plots are great and they're what keep you, coming back to the show every week. But the thing for me that really makes me love the show are those really strong standalone stories. Stuff like the Moffat episodes during the Russell's era, like some of those, like Empty Child, Doctor Dances, and what we're going to be getting later on in this series are, excellent pieces of television.
From memory, this is my favourite series of Doctor Who, so I'm very excited to get into Series 3 properly next week when you guys listen to this. Do you have anything to recommend?
Before I go, I just want to tell you were fantastic.
I shouldn't I?
I will recommend, whilst you have a think, I will recommend a TV series, Sick of It. Now, I'm not sure if I've recommended this before. If you are a fan of stuff like An Idiot Abroad, Life's Too Short, The Office... Oh, hello, Siri. Derek does Ricky Gervais, Carl Pilkington projects, then you will like Sick of It. It doesn't have anything to do with Ricky Gervais. It's Carl Pilkington's own scripted sitcom, little half hour, contains short stories, and they're just really good. They are very funny as well, with writing and directing credits from Richard Yee. I want to say Richard Yee, who directed several episodes in Idiot Abroad as well. So they are really good fun, and good fun for a lot of Carl Pilkington fans out there. What have you got, Harry? Have you got anything yet?
I'm going to recommend the HBO series Westworld. Have you seen Westworld, Tim?
What do we Westworld today? Sorry, what? No, I haven't seen Westworld.
What?
I haven't seen Westworld or the TV series of the same name.
Yeah, I've not seen the film Westworld because it's based off a film from, I think, the 70s, a sci-fi film. It's really cool. It's a really cool series. It takes place in this theme park in the far future where all these humanoid robots... No, why would it be set in Wales?
The West.
No, it's the Wild West.
Oh,
like,
so
it's this theme park.
It's Cardiff, but everybody's a druggie? So it's Cardiff?
What?
Oh,
Dude,
everybody
the-
talks like
the-
this because they're from Somerset.
Why are you you're alienating all of our potential Cardiff listenership right now,
Well, we'll have to go to Cardiff
and
in
our
person,
potential Somerset. Westworld, it's sci-fi, it's good. There's naked people, naked robots, sometimes, a lot of the time, but that's not why it's good, unless you like naked robots.
I could see your eyes. You started a point there, and then very quickly realised you hadn't started a point. Like, oh, I should have said that. What?
I mean, it's a fact
Is
that
Aaron
there are
Paul
naked
in it?
robots in Westworld.
Aaron
The
Paul from
cast
Breaking Bad.
includes, there's a great cast. I think Aaron Paul is in season 3 of it, but
Yeah.
honestly, my favorite seasons are seasons 1 and 2,
Okay.
which have a great cast. There's Anthony Hopkins, Ed Harris, Tandy Newton, Rachel Evan Wood, James Marsden. I can't remember her name. She's in. She was like the main female character in Thor Ragnarok. Her. She was
Tessa
also
Thompson.
in. Yes, that's her. She was
Yeah.
also in Men in Black, wasn't she? Yeah, but she's in this as well. It's a great cast. There's also this guy who's like I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's British.
Okay.
And he's funny. But it's a great cast. It's really well written. It's got some really cool, interesting ideas, and it's one of those shows where, like, every episode, so much happens, so much is packed in, lots of cool ideas. Give it a watch.
Cool. So thanks for listening, guys. We will be back next week with the proper start of Series 3 with the introduction of Martha. Smith and Jones next week, with some Doctor Who news. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped 10 upside down. Now, if you'd like to give us a follow on Twitter, go to @bigger on the inside on Twitter, Instagram bigger on the pod, youtube.com/bigger on the inside, acastshows.acast.com/bigger on the inside. And more importantly than all of that is give us a 5-star review on iTunes, because they do really, really help. Anything else before we go, Harold?
I just want to say poo-poo, and more importantly, pee-pee.
Should I have I? What? What are you on about?
You heard me.
Okay. I'll say
Poo-poo,
goodbye.
pee-pee.
Bye, everybody. And Harry, do you want to say bye?
Bye-bye!
Oh, yeah.